other F words. My name is Zach Lyons. You got Stoney Keeley next to me. We're wrapping up our Senior Bowl practice week coverage. We got a lot we want to get to. We're going to talk about the entire kind of theme or philosophy with this Senior Bowl this week. We want to talk about Diego Pavia, some interesting stuff we heard about the Giants and Brian Dable's time there and his propensity. Well, yeah, maybe that too. But I was thinking prolicativity. Isn't that a word? I'm right around the word.
I don't know what you're looking for right here.
Okay, well, his propensity to draft certain kinds of wide receivers for his system.
His affinity?
No, prolicativity.
I'm gonna look it up while you're getting through the intro.
While I'm having a stroke, could you look it up? We're going to talk about this conversation about Tavandre Sweat and where I think people are getting it wrong with Tavandre Sweat. I'm also going to close this door behind us because that does not look good. And proclivity. That's the word. I was right there. So close.
Yeah, there we go.
So close. Proclivity.
We're there now.
I do want to bring up one last thing about Robert Saleh's press conference, and of course, we're going to go through and give you three guys that we feel that at their value, if they are there, you can say that's a Titan. And I guess we probably should have looked up what their values were before we did this.
Yeah, I know where my guys are at.
Okay, I'll have to look up mine. All right, other than that, thanks to Lions Ford for bringing us down. And, of course, this is a Friday. This is typically pre-recorded. It's our off day. We're about to go downtown, but we wanted to at least leave you guys something at 6 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, so if y'all want to get in the chat, you're just going to have to chat amongst each other.
Chat amongst each other.
I don't even have the chat up right now because there's no chat as we're doing this.
But, hey, we built a good community here. A lot of people, rely on our Senior Bowl coverage. We get some really nice comments and everything. We deserve one day where at 6 p.m., we're not having to do this show.
Where do you think we are right now as this is being broadcast?
Well, I know this. It's getting down to the 40s. I am currently wearing shorts, so we're definitely inside somewhere.
Okay, yeah.
Because either we're at our last stop or going to our last stop.
I was about to say, I feel like as this is airing, we're probably going to be wrapping up for the night because it's a vet move we've learned is if you're going to go out and avoid the hangover for the game, you got to wrap it up early so that you can get some time to hydrate, get a good meal in you, and get a good night's sleep.
And you get to mix it up with the locals still that early. You get to talk to a few people. Mm-hmm. But thanks to Lions Ford for bringing us down. Lions Ford of Lewisburg, Tennessee. LionsFord.net is where you can go and check their amazing inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. They will basically look at you. And that's probably not where we really want to go with it. They will look at your history, look at your background, and make sure that you qualify for every discount possible. They'll give you all the discounts. They'll also make sure that you get the most bang for your buck on your trade-in. So they have a full service department. They have a parts department. Head down to the Lions Ford in Lewisburg, Tennessee. All right. So I thought Todd McShay brought this up, but we were already kind of leaning into this after we closed off here. We signed off here last night. Of course, we'll also be live after the game, and that will be live. But after we signed off here last night, I looked at you while you were in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I said, you know something? This roster may not have the star power, but I would put up this roster top to bottom, all American and national team, and I think they would win every game of every Senior Bowl that I've been to.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a really competitive week. I know that first day we were kind of underwhelmed by the practices, kind of like dragging a little bit. It kind of felt like going through very like elementary kind of stuff and not really understanding the flow of practices. But in hindsight, I think it is. You probably do have lower graded guys here because of all the opt-outs, all of the star power that is not in Mobile for whatever reason. But the result of that is like you got to kind of get these guys up to speed a little bit, and then you can ratchet up the intensity. And I thought day 2 and day 3 they did that. I think it's easily the most competitive Senior Bowl that I've been to.
And I think the talent is good all across the board. Like it's not great. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't have that, to your point. There's no David Baylor or Ruben Bain, but there's a bunch of round 3 guys.
Yeah, for sure.
A ton of round 3 guys. And when you're a team like the Tennessee Titans with round 3 and round 4 picks, and especially maybe even 5, this is a perfect kind of draft. And I love how Todd McShay put it. It's kind of funny because we listened to it late last night, but he put it as, this is the Grinders Senior Bowl.
Yeah, it's
this
like
was
old school scouting.
Yes, he said this was old school scouting, old school feel Senior Bowl. And that's exactly what it was. It's like, was I disappointed I didn't get to see David Bailey down here and Akeem Mesidor and Reuben Bain? Yeah. But I got to see Derek Moore.
Yeah.
I got to see more of Zion Young.
Who, frankly, like guys like Derek Moore, and I'm even thinking about like the more developmental guys that popped some this week, like Nigel Harris out of UCF, like wouldn't have gotten the reps and probably wouldn't have popped this week.
Or your boy Kieran, wasn't he a late ad?
Yeah, Kieran Crawford as well. Like, you think about the rotation, it's a crowded room as is. Then you start adding the guys like Bain and Bailey and Mesidor and
no Pons was here, but you get to see more Julian Neal, who surprised. That's the other thing. Like, would we have thought at the beginning of the week that Julian Neal would have gone through all 3 practices?
No, I mean
nobody opted out. Outside of maybe Colton Hood, but we don't know what the situation is around Colton Hood yesterday.
I thought I heard, I don't want to put anything out there. I heard it might have been like a slight injury.
Gotcha.
Like just don't want to tweak something. But
regardless, I mean, when you're talking about Lee Hunter, who could have rested on his laurels day one. Yeah. He did what he needed to do all week. He could have rested on his laurels, practiced all week. And I get that the Senior Bowl has kind of turned into Combine Junior, where it's like sometimes people come down here for the connections at the bars after and all that kind of stuff. In fact, that's why the scouts like this new schedule.
Yeah.
Because they can get everything out of the way, and when the practice is over, their job is done.
Yeah.
And I get that that's a part of it, but that's not the beauty of the Senior Bowl. And that's really, if I was a Combine guy, I'd probably be hung over watching all those guys get measured regardless. But, that's the beauty of the Combine. The Combine, to me, is so much more about the players and less about the connections and elbow rubbing and all that kind of stuff that people want to do down here. And understand that for this particular Senior Bowl, that aspect of it, totally disappointing. Hardly anybody was down here of note or fame.
Yeah.
Apparently Jim Harbaugh was down here, and I just didn't see him.
I missed that as well. But not a lot of the usual. Like, I don't mean to be derogatory or anything, but like this year's look who's down at the Senior Bowl was like Big Dom, the security guy from the Eagles, and like Jalen Tolbert, who is a South Alabama kid. So
someone said Ty Simpson is here or something like that.
They heard that
allegedly
through the grapevine, but that's a far cry from, I don't even know, some of the media guys that are usually down here, like national guys that are down here. I haven't seen them this week. So it did kind of feel like there was not a lot going on this week except for fucking football.
And guess what? We fucking love it.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I know that some people have talked about if it's the Senior Bowl is going to be like this every year, I may not come back. And because I heard a couple people when I was walking by saying this is boring, and I'm then you're not here for the right reasons, or you don't know ball.
Is it the nerds with their backs to the field?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, just give me a break. I thought it was a blast. I walked away with a lot of notes. I got a big list of players that I want to prioritize.
I was about to say, man, my list of guys that I discovered through this week is astronomical compared to seasons past.
Right.
When I've come down here and had a good feel for a lot of guys. Maybe you find 5 or 6 more that you're I really got to go study them. And I'm looking at this list I got 30 guys that I'm going to have to try and hammer through when we get back home.
So if you pound the pavement, pound the pavement, real boots on the ground, gritty, cold scouting, this was the week for you. And this is what our listeners have come to expect from us in general. But even Todd McShay's out here saying I had a blast. This was one of the best Senior Bowls I've ever been to. And I'm thinking, that dude gets it.
Yeah,
that dude gets it, and he gets what we see, and he was talking about as well as this is the first time in a long time that I can just sit here and just talk about all positions and not just football or quarterback like my prior employer does. And that's what's the beauty of it, is like quarterbacks took a back seat generally at the Senior Bowl. It feels like they always have the most eyes on them because it's such a premier position. But they were by far, even including punters, probably the weakest position group, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, like, the punters were pretty good down here. Field goal kickers were pretty good down here. So let's talk about, and first off, I just want to thank, I know that we told y'all it was recorded earlier, and I hope you guys are at least talking to each other in the chat. But if you are watching this from the bottom of our hearts, we love doing this. We would probably do it if 0 people was watching it or 0 people were reading it. But the fact that you guys continue to count on us and appreciate the coverage that we provide you, the in-depth coverage that you're not really getting anywhere else, at least in our market, that we appreciate you guys staying down here, sticking with us, and year after year, the community keeps growing. And in fact, someone yesterday said that they solely rely on us for draft coverage in general, which is very scary. Appreciate it.
No pressure.
But also very scary. Appreciate it, Rowdy, because that's who said that. But we appreciate all of our regulars, but specifically our Senior Bowl regulars, because I feel like that's really where we have carved out our niche.
It's awesome, man. Greatly appreciated all the kind words. People have been reaching out to me on Twitter and stuff, and it's just like this kind of a reminder is like love of the game. And this is why you do it.
Then this is why you guys should go to Lions Forward, because if you guys support Lions Forward, lionsforward.net, we can continue to do this until we're dead.
Yes. That's what I was having a conversation.
Which could be soon based on our diet when we come down here.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with our buddy Easton Freeze, and we were kind of talking about the state of the Senior Bowl, and I was like, I don't care. As long as they're having it, I'm here. And he's like, so you just got 100 Colton Dowells running around out there. You're still going to be here in the stands.
Colton Dowell got drafted.
I'm like, you betcha, buddy. I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be talking about it no matter what.
So let's keep talking about. Let's go to Diego Pavia discussion.
I'm here for this. This is so fun.
So I feel like with the quarterbacks this particular week, there's a little bit of confirmation bias, because I've seen people say Garrett Nussmeier had a really good week. And people I respect, I just respectfully disagree.
Yeah.
Because Garrett Nussmeier had probably the worst practice of any quarterback yesterday.
Yeah, it was rough.
And it was rough.
I mean, overthrows on...
Sometimes throws to nobody.
Yeah. Who was it? Was it Luke Altmaier, who's our buddy Evan said his number one receiver is the sideline?
Yeah.
But Nussmeier was like throwing balls out of bounds by like 3 yards that... They're working on those like back corner fades, so the throws to the back corner of the end zone, and it felt like 4 throws in a row go like 5 yards out of bounds, or they're just not even catchable.
This is my take about Diego Pavia, because on the way down, the scuttlebutt among the draft community is that Diego Pavia is undraftable.
Well, and that's where the conversation starts with Pavia, is like, well, you know, he's not going to play in the NFL, but... And then maybe you'll hear a guy compliment, but he made a few plays today. Well, he's not going to play in the NFL, but he had a really good throw in practice today. And it just seems like people are coming to Mobile with an awful lot of preconceived notions about Diego Pavia instead of just being open and seeing how the guy works out this week.
Well, and also like everybody brings up his size, so it can't be the size, right? It feels a little bit more personal with Diego Pavia.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because it can't be about the size, because last year, everybody's little darling baby who threw for 800 RPMs or whatever it was,
Dylan Gabriel.
I mean, I would draft Diego Pavia over Dylan Gabriel, and I know that may make me a madman among the draft community. Like, you're insane. Dylan Gabriel is such a better quarterback. But what Diego Pavia has is an actual arm that doesn't require his whole entire body to get the ball deep. Man. But also, it's his personality. I'm taking that 10 times out of 10. All that to say, if Quinn Ewers can get drafted, if Dylan Gabriel can get drafted, Diego Pavia can get drafted.
Yeah.
And I understand that he's going to have a lot to answer for with his family issues. But Shadur Sanders also got drafted. So, like, take the worst out of all those quarterbacks that you guys loved or wanted to draft, and we love Shadur Sanders because we didn't really care. He has the moxie.
Yeah.
I found the idea that him going undrafted to be a little weird because I feel like you can either, it sounds bad when I'm going to say this, but you can draft him to be your team chaplain at some point. Just his personality and his infectious, competitive nature turned the entire Vanderbilt program around.
Yeah.
Think if he lands somewhere that can harness that energy while also developing him into a serviceable backup quarterback. You hit a gold mine in
Absolutely.
that. And that reverberates throughout a franchise. And I know that's like people laugh at the idea of a backup quarterback having that kind of impact, but how many times have we heard these main starters credit their backup quarterback for certain things?
Sure.
And I look at it and I go, I guess my hot take, of the week is that Diego Pavia had a better week than Garrett Nussmeier, and I think both are going to get drafted, and I think Diego Pavia is going to get drafted. Do I think he's going to get drafted day 2? No. He's a day 3 guy, but he's going to get drafted.
I think my take on Pavia this week is that people just need to quit hating. Like, just put the whatever personal vendetta you have against the kid aside and just acknowledge that he is improving, because the thing we haven't even touched on, Zach, like, we know he has the intangibles. We know he's a rowdy, rah-rah leader that he's a culture changer that can turn around that Vanderbilt program. We know he has wheels. We know he can run. He can tuck the ball and pick up a chunk yardage play. But I think the thing that has impressed me the most about him this week is that he's making his impression on this Senior Bowl by throwing the ball, by what he's doing as a pure passer. Like, highest initial rotation of any quarterback down here, throwing the ball at 694 rotations per minute, whatever. I don't know how that's measured. That's the Zebra technology folks that are down here. But I can tell you can see it when the ball comes out of his hand, even on like the short intermediate stuff they're working on in practices. The first 2 throws he had yesterday during practice were just complete frozen ropes. I mean, it was kind of awesome to watch him get out there and just zip the ball right in. Tight spirals, good-looking balls. That's not going to get clipped. Good-looking throws, but then he also had some of the deep shots, like the buckets to the sideline, where big plays to Josh Cameron earlier in the week. Like, this is a guy that I saw, and I haven't reviewed 100% of the film from this week, but that I saw was not eager to tuck the ball and run. And it's something similar we saw with Taylor Green, where these guys come down here, they want to prove they can learn that they can grow as a passer throwing the football. And I think Diego Pavia has had those moments this week where you just kind of stop and take a step back and say, well, maybe we discredited this guy far too early in the process because we don't like the antics. And I just think we should revisit the conversation. Let's revisit the tape. Let's watch the practices, see how he's improved, because I do think he's a quarterback that has improved down here this week. And I just want an honest conversation. That's my take. Like, maybe he does get drafted, maybe he does not. But I think we're too quick to dismiss him as a draft community. And I think this weekend has told us this guy can throw the football. This guy can be a passer in the NFL. We need to revisit the conversation, but it needs to be an honest conversation about the prospect, because he has impressed this week.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, let's go to wide receivers. And the wide receiver conversation is interesting because I think there were a lot of good wide receivers, but I think the best wide receivers were all under 6 feet.
Well,
and I think that the Tennessee Titans fan base only sometimes gets a little caught up in the 6 feet love and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take it one step further. The New York Giants guys, Giants Nation, shout out to them with their Senior Bowl coverage.
Good shows this week.
They were talking this week about the proclivity.
There we go. We got it that time.
Brian Dable going for shorter, more slot guys. And I understand that Chimere DK was used a lot in the slot, but I feel like he's better served to be a movable chess piece.
Yeah.
I feel like Alec Manor is really a outside guy.
Yeah.
If you don't land a Wan'Dale Robinson in free agency who has ties to the New York Giants, I go back and look at what has Brian Dable actually drafted. And with his time at the Bills and with his time at the Giants, they have drafted 11 wide receivers in that time frame. Those teams. 6 of the 5 are under 6 feet. And that's a majority. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, well, the best guys down here, I felt like, were guys like Cyrus Allen.
Yeah.
Colin Lacey. Kevin Coleman. Tyron Montgomery, Lewis Bond. They're all under 6 feet. Some of them are 5'11", just barely under 6 feet, but they're all under 6 feet. They're all guys that kind of translate to the next level at the slot. I kind of look at a guy like Casey Concepcion that I wish would have been down here. And I look at a guy like Mekhi Lemon, who are probably going to should both be under 6 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of feeling that the Tennessee Titans are going to be leaning to a smaller frame wide receiver possibly this year to give a chance for maybe Alec Iamanair or Chimere Dike to take a second-year leap under a better coaching staff.
Where does Calvin Ridley fit into this discussion for you?
See, that's the other thing. We like L'Jarius Sneed is already cut. Like, let's just be honest, he's cut. Calvin Ridley, I'm not so sure. Do you just pay Calvin Ridley or do you pay someone new that money?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't want to necessarily just cast out someone that has a skill set that the Titans could use in the passing game. How do you ensure that you get the upgrade if you do move on from him? Like, I'm all about, like, add weapons and let the rest sort itself out in training camp. But like the Giants Nation guys were saying, like, we wouldn't be surprised if the Titans just threw the bag at Wan'Dale Robinson to get him. Like, okay, that's an option. So Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Iamanair, Chimere Dike, sounds all well and good, but doesn't it sound better with Calvin Ridley? Like, just because you have Calvin Ridley doesn't mean you need to force him to be wide receiver 1, if that makes sense. Like, you draft Mekhi Lemon, doesn't that still sound better with Calvin Ridley? Like, if you can make that work and not rely on him to be the alpha of the group, I still think it benefits the Titans to do so. It's a question of, like...
It's really a question of who's the alpha.
Who's the alpha, yeah. So, I'm not so quick to discard him, and what I'm getting at is I wonder if there is an opportunity for Calvin Ridley to play more inside as a slot with his skill set.
I probably lean against that, to be honest, because I think Calvin Ridley he's a movable chess piece, but I also kind of look at, like, you're talking maybe he plays 20% in the slot, something like that. You still need, here's how I feel. This is a good enough wide receiver class that maybe you don't have to draft one in the first round, but you need to at least walk away with one. Yeah. And does Calvin Ridley factor into your plans? Because then I also look at guys like Rashid Shaheed or Alec Pierce, guys like that people have interest in and probably have high opinions of. And I don't know if Calvin Ridley, I'm not saying you need a Stephon Diggs, but Stephon Diggs was 6 feet, right? Like, and again, I'm going back to that because that's the wide receiver the Bills went and paired with Josh Allen. Right. And so he wasn't considered your prototypical outside guy at the time. He spent a lot of his time kind of divvying up in the slot and in the outside. So for me, it's like, if they keep Calvin Ridley, it's with the idea to maybe he's not the idea is we're not going to have a 1. Okay, and that's fine. Yeah, I understand that fans generally think a team needs a 1, but to get this back to the Senior Bowl wide receivers, is that those are the guys, and for this draft class, sure, Jordan Tyson would seem enticing because obviously they did draft Malik Neighbors, right? Yeah, like that seems enticing, but doesn't Mekhi Lemon feel a little bit more like the best of everything? He could be a number 1, and he is that kind of smaller guy, and he is kind of physical. Like that, to me, I keep going back to Mekhi Lemon a lot when it comes to Brian Dable, the Buffalo Bills, and also just generally Cam Ward's. where he wants to go with the ball and how he wants to throw it. I just feel like Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson gives you the better target if he's healthy. Mekhi Lemon plays like Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, I think that Lemon is a speed guy that can separate. I think that above all else is something that the Titans need more of in the passing game. But I do think like drafting a slot receiver at 4 overall, how would that go over with the fan base?
Yeah, and Mekhi Lemon could play both, but he's mainly probably a slot guy.
Yeah.
It just really depends on free agency. But I just want to put that out there that there is a propensity for Brian Daboll to be looking at smaller wide receivers.
Yeah, and
smaller physical wide receivers, I should say.
And I do think that it's fortuitous for the Titans that this seems to be a pretty good class of slot receivers, smaller slot receivers.
All right, let's go to the Tavandre Sweat discussion. I guess we're back to body shaming Tavandre Sweat.
I guess so. Yeah.
That's the only thing, because I kind of look at what Tavandre Sweat has shown the last 2 years as a pro, but also what he has shown at Texas on the field. People forget he's a guy that can knife through the backfield. And I understand that Robert Saleh has generally leaned a little bit lighter on his defensive tackles, but John Franklin Myers, a guy that's being pegged to replace Tavandre Sweat, is a guy that plays on the defensive end side. He plays outside the tackles. So who's going to plug up here? And I've seen people, James Lynch kind of fits the better mold of what Robert Saleh wants than Tavandre Sweat. And listen, this is a wide range of people who disagree with us, what we're about to say, and disagree with Coach Mack, who's a defensive coordinator. There's a lot more people that disagree with us and agrees with us, and I fully understand this. There's a big bucket of people that disagree. But there's also a big bucket of people that disagreed about Tavandre Sweat being a good pro. And he was one of the best defensive tackles last year. But I think people forget how athletic he actually is for a man his size, and all they see is the size. Now, I want to start this conversation saying I know that at least at the beginning of the year, there were conversations and concerns surrounding Tavandre Sweat's, I guess for lack of a better term, dedication.
Yeah.
I understand it. I recognize it. And that's the reason why he may not be on this team. Not his skill and ability and fit in the scheme.
I was about to say, the scheme fit conversation, like I just...
That's where we want to focus. But I don't want to say like we're sitting here saying he's never going to be traded. We understand there are other reasons for a player to be traded. We saw it with Jarvis Brownlee Jr.
Yeah.
And it was a scheme fit. It was other personal things, personal, but like off-field stuff that we can't really, know for sure what's going on. Like we don't know what's going to happen with Tavandre Sweat and Big Jeff. How much shape is Tavandre Sweat going to be in and all that kind of stuff? We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
But Robert Saleh, everybody talks about how great of a defensive coordinator he is and how he's able to adapt to the pieces that he has. Well, why wouldn't he be able to adapt to Tavandre Sweat? And to be honest, I don't think there's much to adapt to.
No, I don't either. And everybody keeps, I know I sound like an old man shaking my fist at the sky, but everybody just keeps talking about the 3-4 to 4-3. And I don't think that's the state of the NFL today. I don't think it's one or the other. But people are like, Tavandre Sweat's not going to be a defensive tackle in a 4-3, but Albert Haynesworth was a defensive tackle in a 4-3. He was a pretty big mammoth man. Like they made it work for the Titans for quite some time. I think we're still like this idea that this defense is just going to be like one thing, and it's the thing that Robert Saleh did in New York and San Francisco. I just think it's so misguided because you're missing the fact of how he changed things up in 2025. Like he demonstrated an ability to game plan with the personnel that he had. So why are we so persistent with this idea that Tavandre Sweat is not going to work here because of this scheme when Robert Saleh has shown a capacity to tailor his scheme to his players and game plan with what he has? Like I can't imagine that you're watching Tavandre Sweat's best moments saying that's not a player that fits my scheme. That's not a player I want to work with. That's not a player I want in this defense. Like, it blows my mind because
he may not be a player you want in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. Yeah, he may not set the best example.
We're just saying.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, just from his best moments, you watch Tavandre Sweat, and it's like, that's a good player. And I feel like coaches want good players.
I mean, he's got the speed, athleticism. What you're asked to do in a 3-4 is totally different what you're asked to do in a 4-3. Mm-hmm. And he is in a 3-4, which the Titans mainly played, a space-eating nose tackle.
Yeah.
In a 4-3, he's the other defensive tackle to another defensive tackle. So if you I want to put this in your minds. Let's say they draft Ruben Bain, and you say you have Ruben Bain, Big Jeff, Tavandre Sweat, and Femi Oladejo on hands in the dirt all across the line. You're telling me that Tavandre Sweat is so bad that they couldn't get pressure with those 4 guys?
Like, you'd rather have James Lynch in that
spot?
That
you would rather have a James Lynch or even a Sebastian Joseph Day, and I like Sebastian Joseph Day.
I like James Lynch.
And we love James Lynch. But let's be honest, what causes more problems for a team? It's having to account for both Big Jeff and Tavandre Sweat over the center guard triangle.
Yep.
You want to get pressure and push the pocket up the middle on a quarterback. What better 2 guys to do it than that? And I go back to Javon Kinlaw, Alan Branch. So Alan Branch was basically the Tavandre Sweat of the Seattle Legion of Boom defense, where Robert Saleh comes from. They can make it work. They made it work, right? They made it work all the way to a fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, they did.
They parlayed it into a couple of Super Bowl appearances.
Yeah. And
then I look at a guy like Javon Kinlaw, who's not as heavy. I mean, when we're talking about just weight, 315 versus 366 or whatever he may be right now. But Javon Kinlaw started 12 games for the San Francisco 49ers in his first year with, I believe that was his first year with Robert Saleh. I think he was 2020, right? Let me pull that up.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, 2020. And he put up worse stats than Tavandre Sweat did his rookie year.
How about that?
For 5 years in San Francisco, now obviously only one of those was with Robert Saleh, but for 5 years in San Francisco, he ended the year those with 5 sacks and 7 TFLs, tackles for losses. Tavandre Sweat through 2 seasons has 3 sacks and 8 tackles for losses. I don't think people realize how good Tavandre Sweat was last year, and I don't think people realize that he can actually fit this defense. Now, there is a discussion to be had that Borgonzi didn't draft him, Robert Saleh didn't draft him, and that if Robert Saleh had been here, would they have drafted him? I would say maybe, likely not, because that's when you do take into account, hey, I draft these kinds of guys and all that kind of stuff. But that also doesn't make him not a scheme fit. It just makes him not a preference. Yeah. And why are you going to get rid of a pretty good player on a rookie contract when you have 2 years left and create another hole on an offense? Like, if anything, we're getting rid of Sebastian Joseph Day for the Franklin Myers kid.
Yeah.
Like, that's who you'd be switching out. So why are we trying to create more holes on a roster already needing of holes? Now, listen, this is a really good class to replace that hole, right? We could talk about Grayson Halton or Lee Hunter and some of these guys at the Senior Bowl, not including the guys that didn't even come down the Senior Bowl that are top defensive linemen. But do you really want to waste a pick on another defensive lineman, or do you want to start focusing on everything else and see if you can make it work with Tavandre Sweat? My preference would be the latter.
I would say, to sum this up, is don't create the hole. What you have right now is a solid group of defensive tackles. When you look at Tavandre Sweat, you look at Sebastian Joseph Day, James Lynch, these guys, it's one of the few areas on this team where they've got a little bit of depth. They've got some guys that can play. Some of the young guys played well at the end of the season. I I would not want to do anything to jeopardize that.
He has the agility and the speed for a bigger guy, and if he loses the weight, which is, yes, it's a big if, but even without losing the weight, we've seen him make plays sideline to sideline.
Yeah.
Like this is not Vince Wilfork.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is not that. He's more athletic than I think than even possibly Albert Hainsworth was. He just doesn't look it. And I think that's the part that's everybody points to the 366, but nobody wants to point to the ability, the talent of the player. And I think that's kind of a cop-out. And if you go back, and this is what we said when he was getting drafted, go and watch the film at Texas, and you see a guy that is a lot more athletic than you think. And typically, I don't think the defensive tackles outside of Quinnen Williams, and I understand he's no Quinnen Williams, they don't get a lot of sacks in this scheme.
No.
And so, like, we got to understand that it's all about pressure and havoc and all that kind of stuff. And he's there, no matter who is the other defensive tackle, he's there to help make things easier for Big Jeff.
Yeah.
And if you got both of them lined up over the center, I just don't understand what your problem is.
Well, if you're talking about the center guard triangle there, when you've got 2 defensive tackles over it, you've got 3 guys to block 2 with. So it means somebody's getting double teamed. And if you double team Sweat, Simmons comes open, vice versa. Like that's the whole philosophy behind that.
Vikings fired their general manager.
Is that, whoa, that's surprising breaking news here.
Yeah.
I will say this because I feel like somebody in our chat has probably already said, well, Jeffrey Simmons said he's going to kidnap Tavandre Sweat and take him to Dallas with him to work out this offseason. I spoke to a couple of people down here who, when presented with that argument, basically said, good luck with that. And that may point to a larger issue that ultimately ends up down the line being the reason if they decide to trade him, that sort of thing. But it doesn't have anything to do with the tape.
The crux of the argument is
scheme fit. And that's where I'm like, we gotta have a different conversation about Tavandre Sweat, because I think he's a player that could thrive under Robert Saleh.
Speaking of Titans players, a bunch of them were at the press conference yesterday. We never really touched on that, I don't think,
no, we didn't.
Last night. But a ton of players were there in the back to watch their new coach. Haven't really ever seen that in Tennessee. Not even for Vrabel, not for Malarkey, not for John Robinson. None of the press conferences I've ever watched, and those Mike Munchak and Jeff Fish and all that, like, that says a lot about Robert Saleh. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, and it's, you talk a lot about energy and culture, and I called Robert Saleh. I think I was on 3HL, and they asked me about him. I was like, he's instant energy and culture when he walks in the door, and I feel like that is reflective of that.
All right, last thing that we want to do is tell you that, hey, these guys should be on your radar in the rounds that they are projected in. You can go to the consensus draft board over at Mock Draftables or whatever it's called, NFL Mock Draft Database, if you choose to check to see where these guys are for. And I'm going to start it off, and it's the obvious one. It's the one we talked about since day one.
Yeah.
We brought it up that it was a fit, but I would be remiss to say that if Derek Moore, if you were to walk away from this draft in the first 3 rounds, and we're going to be the most hated people in America, at least Titans Nation, to say this, if you went David Bailey, first round, Julian Neal, second round, and Derek Moore, third round, you're feeling pretty good about this defense.
I'm feeling pretty good about this defense. I feel like Titans fans would riot because there's no wide receiver there. Yeah. But I would argue from a complete team building standpoint, you solve a lot of issues with those 3 picks. Like
David Bailey, Tavandre Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons, and Derek Moore, all right there on the line.
Whew, buddy.
Good luck running the ball.
That's what, yeah, man. I think you've solved the pass rush problem if you can do that.
And I think you do. There's a lot of positions you could probably double dip, and I think edge, corner, and wide receiver are the top 3 to double dip from.
For sure.
But like Derek Moore felt like, I know we've talked about him every day, but there's a reason why, because it's kind of like Jarvis Brownlee Jr. That dude feels like a Titan.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not doing 3 then 3. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to keep it on the defense, and I'm going to go with the linebacker out of Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez. This is a guy that just kind of plays like a thumper, but has a little bit of move ability. He's a penetrator. He's had some good reps in coverage this week, but you talk about like appropriate value. This guy is currently projected to be a 3rd-round pick, and I think like if he falls to that point and you still have, I personally think they're probably going to have a need at linebacker. I would not hate it at all because I think he's a starting caliber linebacker in the NFL. And I think like when you talk about like the all gas, no brakes, like we want to fuck people up kind of ideal, Jacob Rodriguez is a guy that's caught my eye this week as a guy that has brought that intensity to these practices, and I think would be a pretty significant upgrade in the linebacking room.
Speaking of linebackers, I'll just go right off that. Xavier Sori out of Arkansas, number 32. We've talked about him the last 2 days, but his play recognition,
penetrator,
and a penetrator is off the charts. Listen, he's kind of like Cedric Gray. What you saw from Cedric Gray last year is kind of what Xavier Sori is, except for I think Xavier Sori is already better in coverage. And I think in those linebacker, running back drills, pass catching drills, those are typically skewed towards the running backs. So I thought all the linebackers did a pretty good job. I thought Xavier Sori did specifically well. And he's a guy that I feel like coming out of Arkansas, a guy that I'll be watching closely tomorrow to see how he's used, and if he keeps the high-level diagnosing going.
Yeah.
That's a guy that I feel like 6th round, if for whatever reason he's still there, that feels like a guy the Titans could be drafting.
Yeah, talking about all the receivers down here, it's kind of hard to pin it down on just one guy, to be honest with you, but I ultimately land on Boston College's Lewis Bond. I think he's been pretty consistent all week long. The guy is a technician. You talk about these like sub 6 feet guys, like he fits the mold, kind of a pure slot, but man, he can work in any direction. Like the way he breaks, releases, runs his routes is very proficient. He looks like a guy that is already a pro. We've seen a lot of wide receivers come through the Senior Bowl that you just watch and you're like, no idea if this guy knows how to run a route. Like they're learning to run routes here in Mobile over the course of the week, but this is a guy that showed up ready-made with that kind of skill set to go out there and just make dudes miss, and it's been awesome to watch. I think that's a skill set that the Titans are lacking in the receiving room right now. I think you talk about a day 3 prospect that can contribute right away. Sign me up.
TJ Hall will be my last one, cornerback out of Iowa. I think this defense needs smart players. And when you talk about instincts and basically everything he has shown this week revolves around not only his physical ability, it's nowhere near like Cooper DeJean, another Iowa, but his play recognition, his timing, his football instincts, his feet, everything about him screams. If he may not be the best, but he possibly could be the most sound cornerback.
Yeah.
He may be the smartest cornerback. And I think in this defense in particular, you need guys that can kind of cover the veer and the verts. And I think he's a guy that can do it just enough. And I think what he may lack in some athletic testing, we've seen on the field that he can stay in the hip pocket of all kinds of different types of wide receivers. But what he makes up in that, he'll make up in play recognition. And I think that to me in this defense with what you're looking for high football IQ guys at your cornerback and defensive back positions. That guy feels like it fits the mold.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. I got to mention an offensive lineman. I think I'm not going to be surprised if the Titans spend a draft pick on an offensive lineman. I know it's not the most immediate need outside of right guard, but I look at a guy like Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech who has been nasty all week long. A guy that if you've got to tell him on day one, you got to pull him aside and say, hey, can you tone down the physicality, the intensity? Like that's what you want. You want a guy that you got to rein in, not a guy that you got to kick into gear. He's been awesome. Really good tape to go with it. He's got good hands, refined technique. I don't think he's the best lateral mover. He's probably not the twitchiest athlete that's out here, but really solid technique. He's got the mean streak. could potentially be in play at the right guard spot if they want to just put him and Jackson Slater together and say, figure it out. Whoever wins can be your right guard. Whoever loses, you can kick inside to center, because Rutledge has been taking reps at center here this week in Mobile, much like Jackson Slater did last year in Mobile. But I think he's a guy that has the tenacity and the technique to play early in his career. And you're looking at a guy that might be like a 4th-round pick. Like, I think it would be good value there. I would not complain at all. I know people might get upset if they take an offensive lineman, but it's a need, and you still want to have that core of young talent to build off of. It's a guy that, if he works out at right guard, could be your right guard answer.
There you go. There's our 3 guys that we feel are Titans. That will do it for our Senior Bowl week wrap up. Listen, before the game tomorrow, we'll do our little social media posts. Make sure you turn on notifications for that. Give you some players or positions that we're interested to watch in the game. Then we'll be live right after the game. Well, about 30 minutes after the game, typically. We'll get all of our notes together, and then we'll go live right after the game. Other than that, thanks to Lions Ford and 104.5 The Zone, but specifically Lions Ford for driving us down here. Drive a little, save a lot to Lewisburg, Tennessee. They'll give you everything you qualify for in terms of rebates, incentives, and discounts on all new cars. And they'll give you a great deal on a pre-owned car as well, and give you the most bang for your buck on your trade-in. This has been Football and Other F Words, and you have just been effed.